special guest. I think you're missing someone. You're missing somebody else.
Hi everyone, how are you doing? You all right? I'm very well, thank you. I'm very well. It's been great, I've loved it. We had a great time. I've spent most of my time with my family, my baby, gardening, realizing how lovely life is when you don't have to work. I've been very lucky. I mean, we've been very lucky during this time, and it's obviously it's hard. It's a difficult time, and I feel very uh, sad for people who have had a hard time. There's been a lot of um, people who've had a terrible time, and I've just actually last night had the news that one of my best friend's fathers had passed away from COVID, so that was terrible news. So it's always hard to say that you've had a good time, but we did enjoy it, and it was a bit of a. I think it's quite good for everyone to take the gear out of it, especially for our world, who's been beaten up badly by us. So
that's the kind of that's kind of positives about it as well. You get to spend more time with family and just kind of cherish these moments with people that, like, if everyone's going the way it probably should be, you'd be missing out and seeing them a lot, So I think it's good that we get to be with family a lot, that kind of way.
Absolutely. I think make the most of it.
Exactly, yeah.
None whatsoever. I don't like shortcuts. No. I mean, I've been keeping myself busy. Like I said, with the baby, babies are always keeping you busy. I've had a lovely time with my wife. We went back and forth between here and Germany when we could between the lockdowns. We did lots of house stuff, lots of gardening, vegetable growing, all sorts of stuff. I attempted to cut a show reel, a new one. And then I did some commercials in between when I could. So
how's
just do what you can do.
How's the protocols on set and stuff when you're trying to shoot the commercials? Is it really strict, or is it people get tested and then you can kind of move about as you want once everyone's been tested and they're negative?
It just depends on the job, how much the measures are, but generally they're all everyone is very thoughtful and very careful, and it's just common sense, really. I think if there's one thing that we can each do to look out for each other is wear a mask. I always thought that, and I've done that from the very beginning. And I think if that's the one thing I can do, then why not do it? So I know all the people in our industry have been very understanding and very helpful. So
yeah, oh, okay, yeah, okay, that's no problem. So, Fabian, is there any kind of movies or TV shows that you've gotten into since you've been kind of in lockdown? Is that really attracted you that you've been able to sit down with your wife and kind of binge it, or a movie that's really gathered your attention?
Yeah, we've been watching lots of stuff. It's been great. We both love getting into series. We're currently watching The Undoing, which is very good. Nicole Kidman, Hugh Grant, and wonderfully directed and photographed, also by Anthony Mental. So he did the pilot, and there's been lots of stuff that we've been watching. I've been rewatching some of my old favorite movies whenever I have the time. But we haven't been watching that much because it's nice to spend time together, and every now and then you watch something. We've been doing a lot of documentaries, which is what we love.
That's good. And have you gone back since you've been involved with Game of Thrones and you did 8 episodes there? Have you gone back yourself and watched it from season 1 to the last season, or did you just kind of watch it as you were kind of doing the show yourself?
No way.
No, too much time.
That's too much time. That's too much time. No, I mean I've always gone back every now and then and watched certain episodes or certain scenes, which I thought were great. But no, I haven't done the whole show.
Yeah, and you went to film school before, but do you think you kind of gathered more experience by being on set, or do you think the film school helped you in any way? Like, do you think it's better to go and do something or to learn and study about first and then go and do it?
I think question. I think, but that's something I think that's really up to the individual. I think personally, I think that film school helped me personally
Yeah,
a lot, even though I'm not a learner kind of guy. I'm not like a, um, you know, I mean, I was terrible at school, and so, but the film school, so I'm not good in a classic learning environment, but the film school helped me hugely from a just personal education, from a personal development, from meeting, talking, working with people, preparing me for life in the real world, so to say. So personally, for me, the film school was a very good experience in combination with all the practical experience I had before I went to film school, and then after, I think it sort of gave me a really good grounding. But I always say that it depends really on the individual, on how you are with institutions, how you are. Some people, you don't have to go to film school in this industry to to work professionally. You can. You don't have to. There's 100 million different ways, and you have to find the best way for yourself. I believe to do that, and that will give you the best grounding you can have.
yeah. And there's a great film saying or movie saying it's like if you want to make a film, just get a few friends, get your camera, press play, put a few friends in front of it, and then after an hour and a half, press stop, and there you have a film. So it probably is the best way to gain experience. Lewis,
Probably not the
can you,
best film, but yeah.
yeah, yeah, it's just true. Yeah, Lewis, can we hear you now?
I don't know. I'm just gonna say things. I'll let you ask the next question again. I'll see if chat is responding to hearing
Yeah.
me. So yeah, you go ahead.
Okay.
Apologies for
So
the technical
Fabian,
difficulties.
yeah. So Fabian, throughout all your work, is there something that you've done? Is it Sherlock Holmes or Game of Thrones or maybe even Justice League that we're going to get to see next year?
I've lost you.
Oh yes, he's just disappeared. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, good. I've just tested my audio, and I'm fairly sure the stream can hear me. So his connection dying was perfectly timed with me coming back. Um, so I guess I'll just ask
Very good.
one of the questions that I really wanted to ask, which was, how is it that you can establish your own kind of identity as a cinematographer? How is it that you put your own stamp on a project that maybe people would be able to say, oh, say I watched. I mean, I know they're completely different films, but say I watched Overlord and then I watched, I don't know, well, Zack's Justice League when it comes out, and I'm like, well, those are very, similar styles. I wonder if it was shot by the same guy. I mean, I'm not sure the general audience is going, I wonder who the DP was for this project, but like, is there a
No.
way that you can put your own stamp on a project?
Well, I mean, you certainly do, and I'm sure everyone certainly hopes that they do have their own style. I'm not quite sure what my style is. I've heard people say before to me that they've watched something and they thought that was very me,
Okay.
which I think is very nice. Every time I hear that, that's a very nice thing to hear. But it's not something that I've been consciously working on over the years. I believe it's just something that you sort of develop. And obviously, everybody wants to put their own style on, whether you do it consciously or subconsciously. I'm not sure. Certainly more subconsciously for me, but there's just certain things that I like that I repeat in anything that I do, probably, or anything I do, I try to to bring that in some way or another. For example, silhouettes, reflections. I mean, I love reflections, and I've done that since I've started shooting short films when I was 15 or so. I've loved reflections. So those are things, and there are many more things that I like, which I guess you subconsciously work into your work, and maybe that becomes your kind of style. And it's very, very nice when people do recognize that, but it's not something that I would have done deliberately, I guess.
Is there a way that, and it's kind of linked to that, are you able to distinguish between a relatively new cinematographer and someone who's very experienced? Are there certain kind of tips and tricks that people seem to pick up over the course of their career that you can tell without even knowing the name that this person knows what they're doing?
I mean, not me. I'm sure, no. No, I think that, and I think that's one of the exciting things about this job. This job is so unpredictable and it's so like free, and you can be so creative. You can do things. 100 people would light one scene 100 different ways. And that's the beauty of it. And it doesn't really matter whether you're experienced or whether you're not experienced. It matters whether it looks good or whether it looks right for what you've been for the scene. I think where you can tell the experience is probably on the way they work on set.
Yeah.
Because obviously the more experience you have, I don't know, maybe the faster you are, or the I don't know, I mean, I guess that's how you can tell experience or by communication or whatever. But no, I think someone can just pick up a camera and shoot something, and it might look amazing, and that's it's great.
Yeah, I think that was something that you mentioned in there's an interview I saw that you did with, I think his name's Owen McDonald, and you said it was like you really don't need anything to start shooting. I mean, obviously a camera would be pretty useful, but and I think for people who are kind of coming into the scene, that's got to be really motivating and kind of assuring to hear that, knowing that I think it could probably help deal with imposter syndrome and stuff like that. So, is there any kind of, I know this is a very general question, and you probably got a lot. Do you have other advice for people who are just kind of getting into cinematography?
I mean, look, first of all, congratulations, because it's great. It's an amazing industry to work in. It's I love film, I love TV, I love creating things on screens. So I think that's beautiful. I think if you found that this is what you want to do, then that's great, first of all. And then yeah, there's like earlier, like I said, there isn't like a certain way of doing things. There isn't one way of achieving certain things. You just don't. There isn't that. So it's really about working hard. I mean, I can only say from the things that I've done or I've seen other people do. I think that the most important thing is working hard. You really have to give your all. I've given certainly my all, especially in the beginning. The first 20 years. The first 15 years. I mean, I worked my ass off every day. I missed everything. I missed every birthday party, every wedding, everything. To get that chance, and to then, once you had that chance, to get another chance, and then do something else, and then grow on that. And so it's just a lot of work, and the rest is a good. Obviously, you need an eye for something, some kind of talent, I guess. Communication, is super important. Communicating with people, wanting to the wish and the will to learn stuff. I love, like I said earlier, I hated being in school. I was really bad in school, and I hated learning in school. But I love learning in my job because it's exciting. I love learning stuff every single day, and I learn things every single day, and I will do for the rest of my career. And I find that really exciting. That's something that really drives me on, the learning aspect of it. And then communication and teamwork, working with people is a great thing. But you also have to be good at it. You have to really work on that as well. Teamwork is essential, and it's this industry is a great example for good teamwork. And so there's all these things, and then there's things that aren't in your control. Like you have to have a lot of luck. You have to meet the right people. And not only do you have the right people, you have to meet the right people at the right time with the right project, because all of that matters. You could meet the right people, but the wrong project, and nothing ever happens of it. You could meet the right people, but at the wrong time, and nothing ever happens. So all of these things really have to work together. And obviously, the more you work and the more people you meet, the more chances you make for yourself. So overall, I've always been a strong believer that you make what you, what's the saying? You make your own luck, you know?
Yeah.
So I think, you know, yeah, it's many, many things that that have to play together and sort of help you, and which is why I'm always so grateful for the things I've done and the things I'm doing, because I know that I've given everything I could have done, but that doesn't mean that, you know, that could have been it. So, you know, I'm very grateful for all the opportunities and the people I've met and the people who've given me chances and opportunities. And in generally, I'm just grateful for doing what I'm doing, you know.
Awesome. Sean, over to you.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask as well, like, when did you kind of first get kind of an attraction towards film and filmmaking? And like, when did you first pick up a camera and decided to shoot something, or a film that you watched, or a TV show that really got you interested in how things work from the technical side point of view? Kind of what kind of brought you to that point where you said, "Oh, I want to try this myself"?
Well, you know, I was just a young kid, and I always wanted to. I loved movies from when I was super young, and I loved actors. I loved John Wayne. I love westerns. That's always been one of my big loves. And I loved when I was a young kid, I loved John Wayne, and I always wanted. I thought I'd become an actor, and I realized pretty quickly that I would be a really bad actor. Thankfully, I realized that quick, and so then I started to look at films in a different way, and then I started. My dad used to do a lot of Polaroids, and I started to learn about Polaroids when I was young, and I loved taking Polaroids, and I still do. And so I think that sort of got me into more of the photography thing. And then when I was about 14, my best friend wanted to become a director, and we just started shooting together. And so we were shooting then, you know, loads of stuff all the time. And so I think it was probably about 14 when I decided this is something that I really wanted to do. But then obviously I had no clue how this job would actually work, would really work, and I didn't find that out for another couple of years when I started to work on actual short films, like professional short films. And I started doing that, and then realized, yeah, this is actually what I want to do professionally. So,
And is there any kind of like directors or filmmakers that really kind of like you still love to this day, where you go back and get inspiration, where you watch some of their films? Is there any that you still have, or have you gained some in the last few years, new filmmakers that really inspire you how a film is shot, or anything like that from the technical side?
I never like to put a name to it because there's so many. I think every
Yeah,
film is great. I mean, even the bad films are great because it takes a lot of everything to make a film, you know. And so, of course, there's iconic films from my childhood, which, you know, Indiana Jones. I don't know. You know, there's iconic films which I've always loved and which I will always love because I watched them as a boy, and I fucking loved them then, and I will always fucking love them. So, but there's so many films, you know. There's films coming out every year where you think, wow, this is amazing, this is great. You know, how the hell did they do this? I want to do this. You know, I want to try that. That always happens. I think most things I watch are an inspiration somehow. You know, or there's always elements in something that, you know. There's so many bad films that I watch that look awesome. I have some amazing shots in it where you just go like, wow, this is just great, you know. So I try and draw that kind of inspiration from everything.
Yeah, even bad movies have something redeeming about them, whether it be an action sequence or a piece of dialogue. There's always something like that. But like when you
Mostly.
move when you move project to project, how much is the technology changing? How much do you have to adapt and learn? Like when the new form of technology comes in, do you have to learn about something that you never knew about before, even though you've been doing it for God knows how many years?
I think everyone's different. I mean, look, I'm not a technical person at all. I don't care. I don't give a shit about the technology.
Yeah.
As long as I can look through the camera and it looks good, that's what I care about. And so I'm not technical. And I probably couldn't answer half the technical questions anymore. I don't care. I don't actually, I now need to necessarily need to know that. There's lots of DPs who are super technical, and that's great. It's amazing. I'm always very impressed by all the stuff that they know, but I just care about the image. I care about what I shoot. To me, it doesn't matter how many pixels it is and how many, what, all of that stuff. So, and I don't really have to know that much because I've got incredibly talented people around me who know that stuff. Like my dad, for example, my dad is like super brain when it comes to all of that stuff, and he's great and he's very helpful, and I love him, and he helps me a lot with that stuff. So, I'm totally open with that stuff. I don't really care about the technical aspect whatsoever. Of course, I know certain things, and I have to know certain things, and I have conversations with other people about what we're shooting and how we're shooting it, and I know all that stuff. But it's not really anything that I care about.
That's fair.
Have you
Go ahead, Louis.
Yeah, this is something that you kind of briefly alluded to when you were talking about some of the projects you're talking about, and I just wanted to kind of pick up on it. Is there a kind of significant difference between, or what would you say is the biggest difference from going on to where you're doing your own personal shoots or your own personal projects to getting on maybe your first kind of big professional finance project, let's say? Is there a big learning curve that comes with that, or is it something that kind of flows naturally?
Well, the biggest difference is that there's suddenly a guy there who brings me a coffee when I want one. Before that, I had to do that myself.
Yeah.
Well, that's pretty much it. That's the only difference it matters then.
No, I don't think there is much difference. I mean, of course, there's difference when it comes to money and budget and all of those sort of things. But the principles of filmmaking, the principles of cinematography are always the same. Whether you have £50, £500, or £500,000, the principles are always the same. And so, which is why so many amazing films are made with just one camera and a couple of lenses and two good actors, because that's all you need for a good film. You don't need all the other stuff around it. But obviously, it's one of the things that makes it so diverse. So it's great. But no, I've never felt, I've always approached everything the same way, whether it was low budget, medium budget, high budget. I've always approached it the same way. I've never, done any different, I think.
You prefer using two cameras, don't you? I read that before.
Well, no, that's not quite right. I love shooting multiple cameras.
Yeah.
Because for me, I see it as a challenge. I see it as a really interesting challenge for myself. I love doing it, but only in the right circumstances. So if I can shoot multiple cameras without compromising the framing or the lighting, then yes, I would always shoot two cameras. But I would say I would like to choose the number of cameras for what's appropriate, basically.
Okay. I kind of like to steer direction a little bit and kind of, I mean, right at the start, we obviously have the thing hanging, the cloud over all of our heads with COVID at the moment. And one of the things I really wanted to get your perspective on, given your kind of behind the scenes knowledge, is do you think that there are any kind of hidden impacts that COVID may have on filmmaking as an industry? Aside from, I'd say like the biggest change that we've seen is perhaps the accelerated push to streaming services, but behind the scenes, maybe on a more technical level, are there any big dangers presented by COVID at the moment?
Well, they're not necessarily dangers, but I mean, yeah, it affects the industry hugely. I mean, first of all, it's just the working environment changes completely because, this is a very intimate work environment. A lot of the times when you're shooting a location, you're in very intimate spaces, small houses, so everyone's on top of each other, trying to make this film or whatever. So, that changes, like I said earlier, one of the most beautiful things about filmmaking is the communication with other departments. And that changes because now we can't all be on set together anymore. So someone goes in and does the set design, and then they leave, and then the lighting guys come in and they light it, and then they leave, and then someone else comes in. So the communication that you could have between departments, which is something that I love, suddenly is influenced by that. So that's a big shame. Obviously, there's just the pure danger of COVID itself and people being affected by it from a physical point, from a health standard. So that's terrible. And then there's one thing that, I mean, I've done a lot of visual effects, and I love shooting visual effects, but I've always had a very bleak outlook when it came to the future of it. As in that I always thought that, the classic filmmaking will be, a lot of the stuff will be generated in visual effects and virtual worlds. And I always said to friends of mine, it won't take that long, probably 10 years, 15 years, 20 years for sure, that's going to be there. And, the classic filmmaking will be more of a niche. It won't be as, as we see it now. And certainly that's something that you have seen speeding up now with COVID, is because, if you look at The Mandalorian and the way that was shot,
Yes.
It was all shot on the volume. It was all shot in a virtual world. It looks fucking amazing. I mean, so a lot of the things are like us traveling around the world, going to see different places, going to shoot in different environments. That might be not quite yet, but that certainly has sped up that process. So it's quite, it's sad, but it is what it is.
Yeah, and just one of the things that you mentioned about that communication between the kind of the filmmaking components. When it comes to a project, say, let's think of Zack's Justice League as the big obvious one. When it comes to working with Patrick, the set designer, were you able to establish kind of like a cool relationship where perhaps you could consult with him, maybe in like the designing phase before sets are built, or maybe in the process of sets being built, where you can kind of say, oh, maybe if I don't know, you're not maybe trying to tell him how to do his job, but when it comes to the building of a set, you're like, oh, maybe I can do this. When you're building it, don't, maybe block this bit, move this bit. Are you trying to kind of get in your shot ideas early, or are you waiting until you have a set kind of ready to go and you come in and like, okay, this is how we're going to do it now that I've seen it?
No, I mean, look, on any project, no matter how big, and especially on bigger projects, you would plan ahead. And with people like Patrick, I mean, Patrick's such an awesome designer. He would think of most things anyway. He would always think of the other departments, in his design, and what would make it visually interesting. What can he do to help you light it? He's a great designer. He's done this many times. He knows what he's doing. So he would always do this. But yeah, obviously we had a great time. We had a great relationship. Going through everything, going through all the sets, talking about them. He was always very happy for me to give feedback, for me to have ideas. He would take those ideas on board. And that was the same with all of the departments. And that's one of the great things, is that you all talk, you all sit down, you talk, you look at everything, and you make it work together. And that's what I love about it, And that was, especially on JL, that was a great experience.
With and this is also something I was thinking about when you're working with other departments. When it comes to the soundtrack of a film, when you're kind of composing your shots and getting everything ready, and you're getting the framings right and whatnot, are you kind of would you have an understanding of what maybe the kind of the general vibe of the soundtrack is going to be, or do you find yourself kind of like composing a soundtrack in your own head and making sure everything fits up with that soundtrack in your head, and then when you maybe get to the end result of the premiere and you're watching that scene again and you're like, oh, fuck, that was nowhere near what I was imagining in my head?
I mean, I normally listen to my own music on set in my headphones. That certainly does not work with the movies most of the time. But no, I mean, a lot of the times the directors have a clue, have an idea of what this music will be like. So sometimes they play you something, you talk. I'll certainly talk about music with the directors, but sometimes they don't quite know. Sometimes they do know. Most of the times they mention like a piece of music that is somehow like it, but obviously will be different. So yeah, a lot of the times you can get a feel for it, for sure.
Fair enough.
And when you get a script for Game of Thrones or Sherlock or even Justice League, and you're starting to read the script, and there's a cool action scene, or even just a scene between two characters, are you already kind of doing your own vision in your head of what way you want that to look? Are you already kind of, even if it doesn't end up being like that in the final product, are you already visioning what you want it to look like for when you're going to shoot, or does that kind of help you for when you get on set and then you're working with the directors and the rest of the crew?
No, no, totally. I mean, that's one of the things that, as soon as I read a script, no matter what script it is, I've got loads of ideas of how I think this could work. And I think that's great. I always have lots of ideas, but obviously that they might not be the right ideas. But that doesn't matter. It's just, for me, it's just being visual and visualizing what's in front of you. And then when you get together with the directors, then he or she will mention their ideas, and they will, and then you'll talk about it. And that's, again, just simple communication and down to collaborating and figuring out what the best way is of shooting that.
Yeah, and I got the opportunity to be on set for the Vikings TV show on Game of Thrones, and even the spin-off that was cancelled for Game of Thrones. But what struck me was the
I did
amazing
think I
set designs.
recognize you from somewhere.
Yeah, the beard, maybe. But a lot of the set designs are absolutely brilliant. Like these big buildings and the little villages made, and even the inside sets are brilliant. But did that prepare you for when you went on to Justice League? Were you used to those kind of circumstances, or was when you went to Justice League, you were like a fish out of water and it was new to you in that aspect, or did Game of Thrones prepare you?
I mean, of course. I mean, look, the more experience you have, the more prepared you'll be, for sure. So I'd never done anything like Justice League before, but then likewise, I'd never done anything like Game of Thrones before. I never had the feeling that I had on the first Game of Thrones on season 4, when I walked into the throne room and I was just like, fuck me, I have no idea what I'm doing here. Like that was a big step for me, And obviously Justice League was a big step because I'd never done a movie of that scale before. So, but yeah, of course, everything prepares you for everything, and but it that doesn't necessarily mean that like the big shows prepare you for the big things or the bigger things. I think anything can prepare you for that. Small, really small jobs where you've got no money and you've got no time. They can probably prepare the most for anything, because that's where you have to be like on your heels, super creative. You have to work out problems all the time. Those problems you don't have on those bigger shows because they have the time and they have the money. So, I guess the really small things are way more stressful and prepare you much better.
In terms of
cool.
preparation, when you're dealing with, we're working on set or whatever, when it comes to actors who maybe kind of go off script and improvise and whatnot, would you say that it's more of a case of that you're always kind of on guard and ready for somebody to start improvising and doing their own thing, or is it a case if they start doing something, you're like, shit, I wasn't ready to catch that, and the director's like, oh, actually, I kind of like that. Maybe we'll do it again. Or are you kind of usually like on the ball and able to capture the unexpected?
Well, I'm generally, they would have to jump off a building or something for me to be like, what the hell is going on? So if they suddenly go somewhere where you don't expect it, if you're handheld, you always sort of just go with them. Mm-hmm. But it just very much depends on what you're doing. But I generally always think that, I always try and be as flexible and improvisational myself on set, because I know how things change once, you can think about things for fucking weeks and have this amazing plan in your head of how this is going to work and how this is going to look so great over there, and those two actors will be there and they're going to talk there and it's going to look amazing. And then you get onto the set and suddenly the set is stressed, and suddenly the actors come in and they like, oh yeah, but we should be over there, and you think, oh, I never even thought of that, and that's way better. Sometimes it's also way worse, so that's bad. But you've got to be open for these things, and you've got to you got to roll with it.
Does it, in terms of that coming to set experience, are you usually pretty quick to settle into a project, or is it kind of proportional to the scale of the project? Like getting ready for a shoot is a lot, like a commercial is much easier than getting ready for an episode of Game of Thrones.
Yeah, of course. I mean, the prep time is hugely different. But as soon as I start something, I feel at home. I feel at home on set. I love being on set. That's the place I love being at most. So all the other stuff to me around it is just boring. But it's something you have to go through.
Aside from
and it's helpful as well. It's helpful too. Huh?
Aside from being in the show, everything else is boring. And but being here,
No,
sitting
I
here,
mean,
spending your evenings.
I mean, like talking about like, oh, how are we gonna shoot this and
yeah,
prepping and all of that stuff. No, but I love, I love I just love being on set, I guess.
Yeah. It was a home away from home. I'm not surprised, and it's a cool ass job. Like it's one of those things that I think has been. You've mentioned it a lot from time to time in interviews or whatever, but hardly, it's hardly ever said that it's a fucking badass job. You get to just shoot and make movies. And TV shows and all that. Like that's awesome.
It's not a job.
Ah, there you go.
It's not a real job. I think it's a fake job. And we're very lucky to be doing a fake job, whilst there's people out there doing really tough jobs.
Without being able to obviously say, what your plans are for the future, is it a case of once lockdown's over, you're good to go? You got something lined up, ready and special for you?
I've started already.
Oh.
What can you tell us?
That's all I can say.
That's all you can say.
He tried it.
Yeah, but many people in the chat, and I have to kind of go into this as well. And actually, thanks very much for telling us your background and what interests you, and about the whole procedures around set, because that's interesting as hell. But many people want to know, how did you get the opportunity?
But it's not that interesting.
To us, it is. To us, it is.
Yeah. But how did you get the opportunity of working on one of the biggest comic book IPs of all time, and working with Zack Snyder and getting that job to work on Justice League? That must have been crazy. Or was it just another job to you, or was it a big opportunity getting to work with characters like Batman and Superman?
I don't fucking know how I got it. I want to know. You've got to ask Zach. I'm very grateful to Zach. I'm very grateful to Debbie. I'm very grateful to Larry Fong, who wasn't available at the time. I don't know. I fell off my chair when I had the phone call, pretty much. Of course, it was a huge opportunity. I knew it was a huge opportunity. I love Zack Snyder. I've always loved his stuff. And so to get the phone call was fucking amazing. And I still can't believe it. I was driving to work for 3 months probably when we started prepping and shooting, thinking this is not for real. So yeah, it was a great opportunity. It was amazing. And it was one of the best shoots I've ever done. And it was just great. So. And do you think yourself in the future you want to go into directing your own kind of shows or movies? Because I'm sure working with these great filmmakers, with Zack Snyder, even Ben Affleck on set, does it inspire you to go out and make your own film that's a Fabian Wagner movie in the future, or TV show, or episodes, whatever it is? Well, no. I mean, look. I mean, first of all, I've got so much more to learn as a cinematographer, and there's so much more I want to learn. There's so many more things I want to shoot from a photography standpoint. And I think, the more you work with amazing directors like Zach, Miguel Sapochnik, David Blair, so many of the directors I've worked with, the more I think are not clever enough to direct. So no, yeah. probably not.
Yeah, and you brought up Larry Fong, of course, was the cinematographer for Man of Steel and Batman v Superman, and even for me,
he didn't do Man of Steel.
He didn't do Man of Steel. Sorry, for Batman v Superman, I should say. Sorry, but when you sit down and you have a conversation with Zach, and does Zach say to you that Man of Steel looked very different from Batman v Superman, And just from by what we've seen in Justice League, it looks different from Batman v Superman. So did Zack Snyder say to you, this film has to look different, or did he just say to you, do your own thing, or does it have to look different to suit the story that we're trying to tell in Justice League? What way did that work?
Yeah, Zach. I mean, look, Zach is a super creative guy, super visual guy, and incredibly clever. So he, you know, I mean, I guess he's someone who wants all his films to be slightly different and slightly individual. So, you know, um, he said to me that he wanted it to be different. He said to me he wanted it to be slightly more colorful and slightly different to BVS. But, you know, he obviously wanted it to be in his world, in the Zack Snyder universe, in the Zack Snyder world, and the Zack Snyder look. So, and on top of that, I guess he wanted me to put my own thing on it. So it's great.
And I think this is something you've mentioned before about how collaborative he is as a director. Is that kind of par for the course when it comes to directors, or if you kind of had more cases than not where you've maybe had to, I don't want to say butt heads, but you've kind of come at a bit of an intersection with a director who's maybe not as open-minded about how they want to do something visually?
Every person's different. Every human's different. Every director's different. And yeah, you know, Zach is super collaborative, but he also knows exactly what he wants. So he knows, you know, he storyboarded the whole movie. He knows all the shots he wants.
Yeah.
But and at the same time, even though he knew this is what he wanted, at the same time he was very open to my ideas and very open to my suggestions and very open to all of that, and always listen and always, like, you know, every time he liked the ideas, we would do them. So I think that's what makes a great director, someone who's got a vision, but who's also open to everything else. So I would say most of the time I've worked with people who are like that.
Fair enough. Have you had any like major takeaways to come from Justice League that you can see kind of helping you as you go forward through your career?
The biggest takeaway from Justice League for me was that major depression is a huge part of our lives and everyday lives, and there's a lot of people in our lives that seem fine, but they aren't. And to hear of Zach's daughter's death was terrible news, and that was eventually the reason why he left the movie. And I think that's something that we all have to take away from it, is that it's a pretty acute and important subject that must not get neglected.
And well, I mean,
Yeah.
from that, obviously, the silver lining is I think we're about to hit 500,000 for AFSP, which is incredible. When you first kind of started hearing about the Snyder Cut movement, and what were your original opinion? Did you think that, you know, there was going to be any hope in hell of it doing it, or of releasing the cut, or were you just thinking, and I personally like to think that I'm more in this camp, that it really doesn't matter whether the cut comes out, the charitable work is just, you know, the cut could never be released and they could raise 500,000 for AFSP and they've still succeeded?
Oh, I mean, that's the most important thing. And I think what especially the fans have done is incredible for that organization and for Autumn and for the Snyder family. And I think that's the most touching thing of it all, for sure. And the fact that we get to see Zach's film and the way he wanted everybody to see it is obviously a bonus. But yeah, I think the charitable aspect is incredible.
For sure.
Yeah. I mean, I wanted to ask, like, working with Zach. So Zach has a lot of references to movies that he loves in his movies. So in Batman v Superman, the ending scene with Superman and Doomsday is kind of similar to Excalibur. Zach loves that movie. Also, when Batman appears in the Nightmare timeline, there's a very similar shot to John Wayne's The Searchers, 1950 film. Zach also loves that movie. And in Man of Steel, the Kryptonians scene at the very start on Krypton, it's very similar to an Apocalypse Now shot with the helicopters in the sky and then the Kryptonian ships. So is there any moment through the shooting of Justice League that Zach said to you, I want to kind of reference this movie, or I want to kind of show a tribute to this movie, or did you have any movies yourself that when setting up a shot you wanted to kind of reference or kind of a homage to a certain movie?
That's a great question. I thought that. I actually I can't recall. I can't recall. He might have said something, but I wouldn't be. I can't recall that now.
Okay,
But
yeah,
he's,
because
you know, he always mentions movies. Like you said, he loves movies, and so it's a good chance he did.
yeah, and even I think on Vero, he's answered questions to people where he kind of got inspiration from the Seven Samurai for Justice League, because of the team aspect and stuff like that. But I found that very interesting. But the film in 2017 was supposed to be 214 minutes, and of course that was in 2017. Now it's going to be 240 minutes plus with in a series aspect, so an episodic form. So, like, do you know yourself how different is it editing this film to now to be a TV show, to be a series, to be 4 episodes? Is it different? Is it going to feel like a show, or is it going to feel like a movie that's just split up into 4 parts? What's kind of your opinion on that?
Well, I haven't seen it. I did speak to Zach not so long ago, but we didn't talk about that, so I'm not sure. But I would say that Zach is a he's a filmmaker, is a movie guy. I'm pretty sure that he's gonna cut this exactly the way he wanted to cut this. I mean, we shot all the stuff in 2016, so
Yeah.
everything that he's using is stuff that we shot. So he's gonna cut the movie that he always wanted to cut, and then if they split it up into 4 parts, then that's what it is. But it'll still be one movie, I'm sure. I don't think he'll cut it as a TV show.
Yeah. And we know the addition of photography took place over the last a number of weeks ago. Did kind of Zach talk to you and tell you what kind of scenes? I'm not going to ask what the scenes were, but did he tell you what the scenes were and what way he's going to shoot them, or any opinion on your way for that? No, nothing.
He's not trying anything, I swear. He's just asking if
I'm
you
just
know.
interested. I'm just interested. That's all.
I can't hear you.
Oh, he's accidentally left his.
I can't understand Northern Irish suddenly. Yeah, no, you're not Northern Irish, are you? Are you Irish?
Yeah, I'm Irish. Yeah, from the Midlands.
You're from the Midlands, all right?
See, that's an expert right there. He's got practice. He went from talking about Justice League to your, upbringing and your heritage and stuff like that within about 10 seconds. He knows exactly what he's doing.
Yeah, I tried. But I wanted to ask as well, Fabian. So Zach, of course, is a very diverse director. His movies come out. Some people love them, some people hate them. But when you got the job with Justice League, you must have known yourself that no matter what, this movie is going to be seen, and people are going to get to see your work, because people can bash on it, people can praise it, but everyone checks out a Zack Snyder movie when it comes out. How did that feel for you, that kind of your talent is going to be seen on a broader scale with these iconic characters?
I don't think I ever thought about it that way.
Yeah.
I don't think you ever think about it that way. I mean, obviously, I'm super glad that people are looking forward to it. I'm super glad that people see it. I hope people see it, because, I loved making that film with Zach. So, but you don't really, when you're shooting it, you don't really think about it that way.
Okay.
I guess the last question I had before we see if we can find any in the chat for the last 10 minutes or so, and I don't mean to make this called this show depressing or anything, but that kind of post theatrical cut release environment, was that how was that for you personally to get through? I mean, was it just one of those ones where you kind of thought, fuck it, all right, we'll sweep this one under the rug, I've got to focus on the next project, or was it one of those ones that's kind of playing on your mind for quite a long time?
I mean, in the beginning, no, I couldn't give a fuck, but that's because I knew what happened to Zach. I knew that is way more important. My mum died around that time as well. I was like, you don't care about some movie.
Yeah.
You care about real life things. So, no. But saying that, of course, later on, you think, yeah, of course, it's a shame that movie that I spent 10 months making didn't turn out the way we made it. So yeah, the fact that it now gets to be done the way we made it is great.
Is it hard for you to have that on your filmography if this Snyder Cut wasn't happening, the Justice League 2017 to be on your list of projects you've been a part of? Would that be tough for you as an artist for the rest of your life to have that there when the full vision never got to be seen and your full vision never got to be seen?
I mean, you know, no. I mean, look, with that movie, I associate having a great time with Zach, meeting my wife. I met my wife in that movie.
All right, cool.
I associated with that, with working with Zach, which was amazing. That was a life experience. Working with DJ, working with Patrick, working with all of that team. You know, from a professional standpoint, that was great. So that's what I mainly associate with.
Yeah, and I wonder, like, so you've probably seen the trailers yourself from 2016
And I
and
didn't do the
2017.
reshoots anyway. I wasn't involved in the reshoot, so
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Just washed his hands of that.
That's not yours. That's not yours. We won't put that on you. But you've seen the trailers, of course, even the newer one that came out, the Hallelujah trailer. Now, I of course don't want you to spoil anything, but from scenes that we have seen, maybe in the 2017 version, maybe in the trailers, is there a certain scene or a sequence that you're looking forward to the fans seeing that really showcases your skills, or for us to just see as a fan base that we've seen in the trailers, that we've seen in clips already?
the Irish just keep trying, don't they?
The history lesson. What can we think of the history? What can we expect for the history lesson?
Well, it's going to be a lot cooler than what you've seen. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
We shot a lot more stuff for it, and we shot a lot of cool stuff that wasn't in there. So that's going to be very different.
Yeah.
But I haven't seen it yet. I haven't seen what Zach's done. But like I said, Zach is a genius, so I'm sure he's going to make it into something very cool. Plus, Zach loves movies. Zach loves the DC universe. There's no guy who knows the DC universe better than Zach does. There's no one who's got more attention to detail, more love for it. So I would just say, just trust him to make this cool.
Yeah, we're all looking forward to it, and I'm sure you're looking forward to seeing what you did in 2016, a long time ago now, come to light for yourself from a professional standpoint, but also for your fans to see it, because you've got loads of fans from Game of Thrones, from Sherlock, and everyone was eagerly awaiting for Justice League in 2017 to see what you could do.
That's nice.
Okay, well, I think it's been
the last.
I
didn't disappoint.
I'm sure you like it.
We've got about 5 minutes or so let's see if I can skip through some questions from the chat. A couple of them are like people just being like very, very blunt and direct of did you shoot this, Fabian? Did you shoot this? I'm like, if he said no to what Sean was trying to say earlier, like, you guys, there's no hope in hell. One question that I did see earlier that popped up that I thought was quite interesting from You Can Call Me Joker is that you wanted to ask, is that the Fritz Lang's Metropolis movie photo behind you?
Oh, yeah, it is, yeah.
Oh, there you go. Good eyes, Joker. All right.
One of my favorite films.
Oh, there you go. So we're off to a good start. We've already got one very good question. Let's see if we can find any more. Well, there was one question where somebody was asking about Jared Leto.
Actually, the Justice League. It's a Justice League clapperboard.
Oh, there you go. Is this an exclusive for the show? We've got a look at a clapperboard.
Just accidentally placed back there.
Sean, I don't know if you're muted or not. It says your mic is muted.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, sorry.
So yeah, one of the questions was somebody kind of asking about Jared Leto as Joker on set, but obviously he came in for additional photography, which you were not there for. So I kind of want to repurpose that question and say,
oh no, I meant the additional photography in 2017.
Okay. Well, I've just asked generally then, when you were originally shooting the film, and I'm just assuming that Jared wasn't there for that, was it kind of like you felt like a missed opportunity not to get to shoot anything with Joker involved, at being that it is such an iconic character?
No.
Hopefully Jared is not watching, so he's not offended by that response. All right. Well, okay.
Maybe in the
I'll
future.
Yeah, he was
I'll repurpose that.
he
Are
was
there any
such a
DC
nice guy.
characters that you would like to shoot?
I mean, all my favorite ones I've shot.
True. True.
Which character were you looking forward to shooting most when you got the job?
I've always liked Batman.
Yeah.
You know, I've always liked Batman as a kid, so that was pretty cool, shooting the bat signal and the Batman scene. Batman up in the gargoyle. Oops.
All right, fair enough. Okay. I'm seeing more questions that are just like, yeah, what was your favorite scene to shoot? What was your favorite this to shoot? I'm like, we're not going to get anywhere.
Is there any cool, Fabian? Is there any cool kind of set pieces or superhero memorial that you got to take off set from 2016? Anything cool from set that you got to bring home?
Actually, no, I don't know. Well, I got the clapperboard, obviously, which was nice. But no, I didn't take anything else, actually. I should have done.
Sneak a
Yeah.
batarang
I
in
got
your
some
pocket.
Game of Thrones memorabilia, but I didn't take anything from Justice League.
Oh, well,
And is that the clapperboard that you would use? Is like for someone who doesn't know, would that be just kind of how many clapperboards would be on set for different scenes, or is that the one you use for the entire production, or what way does that work?
It depends on how many cameras you're using, but this one is one of the boards.
Oh, very cool.
Um,
We just got to be in a scene with Fabian Wagner.
You probably have about depends, huh?
We just got to be in a scene that you got to shoot.
We've been.
Oh yeah, that was the B. So that was the B camera. So that was for my camera because I was operating the B camera.
Okay. Let's see if there's any other. Okay. A Kedits asks, or AK Edit, sorry. How did you come up with the shot selections, ditching the anamorphic lenses?
Sorry, say that again.
So he says, how did you come up with the shot selections, ditching the anamorphic lenses?
I'm not sure whether I understand the question. I guess the question is, why did we not shoot anamorphic?
It seems so, yeah.
And the answer would be is because Zach didn't want to shoot anamorphic.
When you said that you like using multiple cameras depending on the shot, was Zack Snyder previously just a one camera guy, and then you brought the idea of multiple cameras?
I think so. I think he just wanted to shoot. He normally shoots one camera, and like I said earlier, I love shooting multiple cameras. So I said, why don't I just bring in a big camera and I'll operate it myself, and I'll offer you the shots up as when I see something that we can do at the same time. And if you like it, you say yes, and if you don't like it, you say no. And he said, yeah, great. And then we'll start doing that. And I think he enjoyed that because we've done quite a lot of two camera setups.
Is there a certain scene that we've seen from any of the trailers that you could say is a multiple camera setup?
I can't remember.
No, too far. It's a long time ago.
But there's lots of shots. There's lots of shots in there that I did. So yeah, there must be.
Yeah.
And this is actually kind of something that I remembered that you were talking about before. Is you've talked about before about working on the trailers with Zach, and I mean I'm not pretending to know anything about how trailers are made or whatnot, but is that a common thing for you to kind of be sitting in on the trailer making process?
No, I wasn't there for the cutting of the trailer. I went there for the color process, so for the color grade. So, but I was in LA at the same time. I was in LA at the time, and he just had he just finished cutting trailer and said, "Come and we'll do a few days of color grade."
Okay, that's fair enough. Let's see.
Does that usually happen even for a Game of Thrones episodes? Do you sit in on those kind of things as well? Is that a usual thing that happens?
Yeah. I mean, the color grade is the fun process in the cinematography process. So that's a big part of the DP's job. And obviously we work with color graders who do the actual process, but it's a very creative job, and we work with them, they work with us. But the color process starts in the prep of film, when we decide how a film should look and all the details, and so they finish that. And so yeah, it's a big part of the job, and it's very important that you're there.
And like the one part from the 2017 version was the color grading just seemed all over the place, and it just seemed very, very bright in a lot of places. So I'm glad that we get to see the proper version of that in 2021, because at times it's very hard to look at.
Me too, but we've got Stefan Sonnenfeld, who's an amazing colorist, and he's doing the Zach grade too, and he's going to do an amazing job.
Okay, so last question that I'm seeing in chat. I'm kind of repurposing some questions here. One of the things that I think we heard recently from Zach was that his history lesson was quite sci-fi, Lord of the Rings-esque. Did that translate to you in the process of filming it?
I don't know. I can't remember that.
Do you ever get any kind of...
Just wait and see.
I am not trying anything, I swear.
Okay, here's a fun one from the chat. Okay, so what is the most challenging aspect of being a cinematographer? What's the most challenging aspect?
Well, look, I mean, again, there's lots of challenges, because you're always working against the time, and there's not enough money to do certain things and stuff, and blah blah blah, all of that crap. But really, when you think about it, there isn't any challenges, because we're lucky to be doing this. Like I said earlier, this is not a job, so I can't really call it a challenge, even though I love to moan about it. It's not a challenge. So
yeah.
Okay, well, I will.
We appreciate you being here.
Yeah, I will wrap it up by there's a nice
conversation.
From, Brian in the chat, who just says that we'll close on this, that he loved the lighting in The Long Night. The lighting decisions made sense to me, and I could see. Funny to see what people were complaining about. Much respect. So that's a nice thing to say, and I'm sure he is grateful for that. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here. This is really awesome and a really great.
Pleasure, guys. I enjoyed it.
Thank you so much for being here.
Great.
Thank you guys in the chat for coming along. This is crazy that we get to do this, and crazy that we get to interview someone such as yourself. Who knows? Maybe after Zack Snyder's Justice League comes out, we'll be knocking on your door and saying, "Hey,
we'll
man,
come back,
you can answer some of our questions."
We can talk about all the stuff.
Yes.
Yeah, we can break it down.
We'll sit here for 4 hours and get you to answer every question.
I actually seriously don't remember. So even if we do it again, I just don't remember.
All right. Well,
I can ask whatever I want next time, Fabian. Is that what you're saying?
You can.
Yeah. Okay.
But then I'll just not answer you just for the fun of
it. Thanks very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for being here.
Thanks, guys.